Hello. Let me just get this music down a bit. Nice. Let me also zoom in. Let's get zoomed in. Am I in focus? Out of focus? Probably That's better. Now I'm crystal clear. I'm in 4K. Are you looking very fluffy today? Yeah. I told myself I wasn't going to shave until I released the plugin. Which, you know, it's done. I just haven't. I've just been busy the past what's it called, week. Because this damn. Let me tell you guys a story, right? Also, Tony, hello. Waves. And Robo, how's it going? Frederick, g'day. Jose, or Jose? I don't know if that's a soft J or a hard J. Do you need a powerful PC to run UE5? It depends. It depends on what you're doing with it. You know, it's not the engine you use. It's how you use it. I don't know, some analogy. Jose, okay. So yeah, I mean, if UE5 is no different to UE4. Like, they're the exact same. UE5 is basically just UE4, but with some extra optional features. There's no actual difference between the engines. At least not yet, until they do that RHI upgrade. But yeah, if you turn off Nanite and Lumen, or maybe just Lumen, then it's essentially the exact same as UE4 to run. That being said, it depends on the type of work you're doing with it. So if you're making a AAA photorealistic, you know, Giga game for VR or something, then you'll need a beefy computer to actually kind of... You can always turn the scalability settings to low and, like, disable lighting while you're making the game, but you're not really going to get a feel for what you're doing. So you really only need a computer that is powerful enough to run the project that you're making, plus a little bit extra for, like, editor overhead. So maybe like an extra 8 gig of RAM. So I'd say like 16 gig of RAM, and just a medium end, you know, graphics card and CPU. Sort of like 1080 equivalent is like the minimum to just have a smooth, like 1080 graphics card. Everyone win way? Okay, yeah. Then you can probably get away with a pretty medium end rig. Brick to scale. Hello. Kind of focus. I have to watch Potato Resolution. I know that feeling. I know that feeling. Brave Timo, hello, hello, and Amethyst, how's it going? Oh, I've been stressed the past week. Holy shit, this cat. Oh my god. Right, so I've got this stray cat. I mean, I look after this stray cat. It's not my cat. His name's Mr. Cat. He's an intact male tomcat that lives here, basically. But essentially, this might get a bit graphic, so if you don't, you know, it'll probably make some people like squirm. But basically, he had an eye ulcer, like a corneal ulcer, so like an ulcer on his eyeball. And like, there's nothing I can really do about it. Like, if I put a collar on him, he's just gonna, you know, get it off somehow, or just like kill himself trying to do so. So like, you know, I tried treating it with like drops, like, you know, antibacterial and that kind of stuff. There's not really much I can do because he's a roaming tomcat, you know, he goes and does his stuff. Anyway, so his eye ruptured. So he's basically lost his eye. His eye, like, lots of like clear jelly, you know. If you've ever, I mean, I'm guessing a lot of you don't work on farms and stuff. Like, you see some crazy shit on farms in terms of like animals, and you know, some get diseased and some get, you know, fly blown and all that kind of stuff. But it was weird because I assumed he'd be out of action for like at least 2 days, because a cat can survive without, like, with a ruptured eyeball. Obviously it's very painful at the start, but then once it's kind of, you know, adjusted and it kind of like deflates a bit. So now he's like completely fine. Even that same night, I went out with him at like midnight, and he was just like, we went for a walk for like a few kilometers, and he was just, you know, pissing everywhere like tomcats do. Yeah, he was even like running around, even though like his eye had just popped a few hours earlier. I mean, it didn't like pop. It's like, I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, basically he's blinded that eye. I mean, he was already blind in that eye when there was an ulcer and whatnot. But like, yeah, he wasn't gonna keep the eye. The eye wasn't savable in the first place. Even if he was a domestic cat, at least not without like reconstructive surgery. Gonna take him to the vet. So I think I'll take him to the vet to get his balls cut off. Even though it probably won't do much because he's already like, he looks like 2 or 3 years old. That's if I can actually get him into a carrier. But yeah, once all the eye jelly leaks out, it's okay. Yeah, exactly. Like, he's fine now. He's just, his eye's grey. You know, like once the there's like 3 layers to a cornea, and then once the top layer is, what do you call it, compromised, and any fluid gets into the second layer, that's when it starts to cloud over. And then also when the body tries to heal an eye, it creates blood vessels through the cornea, and that also clouds it over. So that's why you get like, you know, grey eyes in a blind cat that's had like trauma to the eye, or any animal. I've seen it in like horses and stuff as well. But yeah, so now he's just like fine, and the eye doesn't look bad. Like, he's obviously can't see through it. I mean, he can probably see light, like changes in light, but nothing more than that. But yeah, because he's not like a registered cat, like he's just you know, a cat. There's not really much I can like do that isn't gonna cost me like you know, $2,000. Like, I could get the eye removed, but that's like, you know, over $1,000 to get done. And it's like, I wish I could. I wish I could afford to just take in every stray animal that I find and, you know, get them 100% comfortable and whatnot. But, I mean, he seems to be taking it like a champ. So, you know, I'll probably just treat it at home just with, like, antibacterial drops. And, like, I've got antibiotics and stuff for small animals, so he'll live. He'll live. But yeah, that's what I've been doing for the past 3 days. Like, I was pretty stressed. At first, I was, like, panicking, and, like, I rung up a vet. And I was, like... I rung up the after hours hotline, because it happened at nighttime. And I was like, oh, yeah, you know, I've got this stray cat, and I think his eye's, like, ruptured. And I'm just wondering if there's, like, anything I can do about it. And they're like, oh, yeah, I'll put you through to the ranger. And I'm like, oh, yeah, cool, cool, cool. So I explained to the ranger, and she was, like, really lovely. But it was only, like, halfway through the conversation that we, like, realized that, like, the person had told the ranger that there was a stray cat that they, you know, would capture and euthanize and whatever. But I was, like, talking about, like, you know, like an adopted stray cat or a stray cat that I look after. Because she was like, yeah, you know, we can take care of it, like, for free because of the Farmers Association and blah, blah, blah. But, like, take care of it meant very different things. So, yeah, it all worked out. It's all stable now. There's no, like, infection or anything, so once it's all good, he'll just be a half-blind cat. And that's all there is to it. So, yeah. That's my story. That's why I haven't been streaming since, like, the 29th. Because I've just been busy just sorting out this damn cat. Full pocket. Yeah. I mean, like, my order of priorities is, like, cats, game development, and then my own well-being and health, you know? So, you know, cats come before game dev. Alright, let's get started. What's on the docket for today? That's a great question. I'm glad that you asked. We're going to open up another notepad. I'm pretty sure I've already done a notepad thing somewhere. Also, Robot, I love all the emotes of all the cats. I think I'm going to do that with all my cats, just, you know. No to text-based code. How do you feel about is that Godot's script? I think I'll be able to use it to make games. Do you mean, would I be able to use it, or like, is it usable to make games? Like, in general. Me? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I could use any language to make any game if once I learned it, you know? Yeah. I'm confident in my learning capabilities, I guess. I think everyone should have confidence that, you know, they'll be able to do something, like, if they stick to it. You know, a lot of people get discouraged very early and then think that they sort of can't learn any new stuff, but it's like, you know, you just gotta push through it. Just gotta push through. How'd you go with Niagara for render target stuff? About to dive into it all. decently well. I'll link you to the video that sort of got me started with it. It's a very, very good video. This one by Chris Zuko. There we go, just linked it in the chatses. Duck Squirrel, how's it going? All right, Prismatica plans. Are you going to make game? Yes. Yes. Always have been. Always have been. Also, Mars, hello. Right. Here's kind of what I want to... I've got this idea, right? Obviously, just like extra kind of Prismatica or just like general game dev stuff, like the plugin that I'm releasing, and all that kind of stuff. So my idea, this I don't know if this is like crazy or not, but I've got this idea. It's called Open Prismatica. So basically, I want to open source the game project, which has a few caveats. Obviously, there'd have to be a closed section. So, like, it would be a public Git repo. Open and close sections. Open for anything I own / contributors flag as open. Let me just make this a bit smaller. That would be OP. That's funny. And then closed for marketplace / contributed as closed. So basically the whole project, there's sort of like there's like two sides to it, right? There's like, I want it to be open so that people can look through all of the code and, you know, use my animations that I make, and, you know, if they wanted to like look at how I do models and like my models and stuff, they could, you know, they could look through that basically. And then also for people to be able to contribute to the project if they want. You know, you don't have to contribute in order to get access to it, but, you know, if someone wanted to add some content or make some models or anything like that, or if someone wanted to, let's say someone makes like a plugin for the marketplace and they want to contribute their plugin, but only for like me or, you know, the core development team or whatever, so that, you know, people wouldn't be able to get access to that through the open folder and whatnot. Then, you know, they could do that. So like that in itself would be fine, but then there's the but then when it comes to like monetizing it as a game, which, you know, I'm not like super, I'm not really a monetized kind of person, but it's kind of like, I don't know. What's like the legality of selling an open source project? I mean, I guess anyone is technically, I don't know. See, that's the thing, because then it comes down to like intellectual property and stuff. Like the Prismatica IP is mine, but the files and stuff are like, you know, anyone can access and use the open files and contribute and that kind of stuff. Obviously, just because someone contributes to an open source project doesn't necessarily mean they're like entitled to, you know, get a cut of the sales of the game or something. Selling open source is a valid model. You let people access, give access to the source, but the IP and support is paid. It's how Red Hat worked. Okay, that's, you know. New Dwarf Fortress is not free. Yeah, that's true. That's true. They've the Steam version is like what, $20 or something, 20, 30. Let me see Red Hat. What's Red Hat? It's a Linux cloud container. Okay, okay. Gotcha. So they provide open source software products to enterprises. Okay, yeah, they make a lot of money. They make a lot of money. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. It's a Linux distro. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, like, I can always do, because obviously I'd have to give, maybe it wouldn't be a public repo, but it'd be a private Git repo with requested access. And then if someone wants to request access, maybe they have to, I don't know, sign some notification that, you know, they're not just gonna re-upload. Well, I guess they wouldn't be able to just redistribute the game because there is, because there's an open and closed section. I mean, the closed is really just marketplace assets that I can't redistribute, but... If I were to try and make money on own open source projects, I'd do it through donations plus support ticketing. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, like I wouldn't want anyone to have to pay for access to it, right? That kind of defeats the purpose of it being like open source. That's like kind of open. It's like available, source available. But yeah, like if I was to... Let's say we start selling Prismatica on Steam while it's still, you know, it's open source and blah, blah, blah. Or like people can access the source code. Then that's all good. Because, like, the thing is, like, I don't think all of my stuff is, like, super applicable to every game or whatever. Yeah, I don't think there's, like, I don't think there's a chance of someone stealing my game, if that makes sense, because my game is what it is because I'm the one making it, you know? Whether they're, like, using... I mean, the other thing is that all of my models and art style is, like, really niche. So, like, if someone, you know, I don't know, took all of my, you know, my models or something, they'd have to texture them themselves, because all I do is all I do is just normal maps and a color mask. There's no actual, like, textures. So, like, you know, a lot of stuff isn't really applicable for someone to kind of, like, rip off, if that makes sense. In terms of, like, code and stuff, again, it's all very... I don't know. Kindred, hello, hello. How's it going? How was the rest of the stream? Unreleased source available. It's free. You just have to sign up for the private repo. Yeah, exactly. So you're just selling the compiled game, because if it's open, then anyone could just run it, right? Well, they could run the game systems, but the open folder wouldn't have, you know, the game world in it, because that would contain marketplace assets. So that wouldn't be open source, but all of the blueprint stuff and all of the kind of, you know, the systems and like the character models that I've made, or that you know, that people have contributed to the open section, would be available for people to, you know, so, like, yeah, you wouldn't be able to... You wouldn't be able to download the source and run the game that way. I mean, you could run the game if you made your own test level with all of the template, you know, objects and stuff. Like environment assets and whatnot. But you wouldn't be having fun. But you'd have enough tools to be able to make, you know, a system or add some content or anything like that. Or just, you know, pull little bits and pieces from what's it called? From the code base. Or contribute to the code base and or open assets. Or someone could submit assets to the closed pool that only I would have access to, or only the like, you know, anyone that's a core contributor would have access to. And anyone that's a core contributor is like, you know, like a core developer that has a responsibility to not redistribute, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, that kind of thing. So that's just like what I've been thinking the past few days. Because I just think it would, I don't know. A lot of people ask, like, oh, can I, you know, is the project available to look through and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I can't because there's marketplace assets. Like, I'd love to, but, you know, marketplace assets that I use and whatnot. So this is basically just a way of allowing people to, you know, just check out how the systems and stuff are implemented and or contribute, you know, with whatever. So, I don't know. It's just an idea. This will just be, like, on the back burner, but when I do my next refactor, it'll be kind of taking this, or, like, allowing this to be a possibility, but, yeah. I got 2 of the 20-ish weapons done that I need to make. Hell yeah. That's, like, 10%. That's pretty substantial. Pretty substantial. I love that sword, and it had, like, the little poison vials on it. I really want to do some stuff like that with Prismatica, like modular. Have I told you? I know I've already got a modular weapon system, kind of, but it's pretty rigid. I do want to eventually make the weapons entirely modular, like, you know, a blade type. But then you can stick that blade on, you know, a greatsword hilt. So you could have like a... I mean, it would be dumb as hell, but you could have like a greatsword hilt with a dagger on the end of it. Or you could put, you know, a sword on the end of a shaft, and it would become a glaive, you know, or I forget what the Japanese version, naginata. Or you could, you know, instead put an axe head on the end of a shaft, and all of a sudden you've got a pole axe, or a, you know, a halberd with a. Okay, that's a bit too much, but or you could put that same axe head on, you know, a little boy. I just think that would be kind of cool. Just like it would add a lot of variation, and the way that the base stats of weapons are determined is it's actually through we actually like calculate there's the fulcrum point of the weapon, which is where the hand goes, or like the pivot point. So the pivoting hand goes here on this staff, and then each component of the weapon, let's say there's like a, you know, a butt spike and a, I don't know, something like this, I don't fucking know. We get the weight of each of them. So the base weight of this, which the base weight is if it's made of steel, that's the base weight, and then any metal that's heavier or lighter just modifies that base weight. So we get the base weights, calculate the weight of each component. Each component has its own center of mass. So this one would be like, I don't know, here. For this shaft, it would be in the dead center. For this, it would be, well, in the dead center. And then we can basically just calculate, okay, where is the center of mass of this whole thing? How far away is that from the fulcrum point? Okay, that's its attack speed, and that's its force multiplier. And then you've got the, you know... So, like, it kind of already... All of the attack speed and the input force, or the force multiplication, is already, like, predetermined. So if I just took the head off this, then it would become faster, but it would output less force. And then force gets converted into damage through the 3 damage types, which are impact, stab, or pierce, I think I call it. Yeah, it's pierce. And slash. Actually, I before E except, so it's P-E-I. No, it's... I can't English. What is pierce? Is it... Yeah, I before E. Yeah. It's P-I-E. I'm so dumb. I even said the thing, but whatever. Peer and sta. No, and sla. Sla. So yeah, force converted into that. So, you know, there's a whole thing that's already figured out. So I think doing completely modular weapons would be kind of cool. And then each weapon component has its own, like, trace points. Which I don't know if I think I can merge or append sockets when I would, like, merge this entire mesh into one. So then that should all work fine, like the way that the weapon tracing gets done. Because then it's just like, okay, we hit character with this socket belongs to this weapon component. Query this weapon component, ask how much damage it deals at this point for this attack type. So, like, there's swinging attacks and there's thrusting attacks and all that kind of shit. So yeah, that's sort of the dealio. So that's another eventual thing that I'll refactor. It's not super important, but it would just be cool. I think it would be cool. Designer, so I can't take it. Yeah, they're all the Kickstarter ones, weren't they? Can make it open source, just exclude marketplace assets. Do that with all my OSS Unity projects. People just have to have the assets themselves. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Using gameplay ability system. I'm not. I'm actually using my own ability system. Because I mean, I could do this with gameplay ability system, but I already made my own ability system, but I'm going to be refactoring it. Which is this here. Ability refactor. Move or rebase from components to objects. Virtualizable. So yeah, so this is kind of the main thing, is that I need characters to be able to use actions while they're unloaded, or like while they're in their virtualized state, because we do a whole, well, we will be doing a whole virtualized AI / virtualized entity bullshit. Which basically means that any NPC that isn't like on screen can just run in like a, you know, a sparse update thing, but they're still actually like, they have agency in the world even when they're not loaded. I think that would be very cool. Very cool. With open projects, you need to make people sign a legal contract, otherwise you can get in trouble with monetization. Every contributor has the rights to what they added without a contract. Yeah. So I think it would be, I think we'd make it source available. So that, yeah, you do have to request access, and in order to have access, you have to sign some sort of agreement that protects, you know, the IP and all that kind of stuff. You know, what you can and can't do with the you know, the code and whatnot. Yeah. The other thing is, what was the other ability thing I wanted to do? Doesn't... Oh, I'd have to do a subsystem for... No, you can run functions through the class, can't you? You can call a function on a class, not an instanced object. So I probably wouldn't even need a subsystem. It could just be per fella. You can? Okay, yeah. Default. Because that's what the virtualized things would be doing, because the virtualized... through base class. Or just through class non-instance. Because I know that GAS does that, or it can do that, where like an ability doesn't have to be instanced in order to do stuff. Something like, you know, if an NPC is off screen, then they're never in, like, they're never in the middle of an action, right? Whereas when someone's on screen, their action has, you know, it has a timer and a lockout, or a, you know, it finishes when the animation finishes kind of thing. But if they're off screen, because they're being updated only, like, you know, once every minute or two at maximum, it'll just be like, okay, this action will or would take 30 seconds to complete. So now you've used up 30 seconds of your 2 minutes. What's the next thing you'd do? Okay, you'd path to this location. That takes 40 seconds. Now you are searching for something to hunt or something. And so that would be their projected, you know, path for the next update cycle or whatever. Like turn-based prediction. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's a good way to think of it. You could think of any unloaded NPC as having action points. And then when it's their turn in the update cycle to, you know, to be updated, they can use those action points to, you know, to do stuff. Although it's technically a projection of what they're gonna do, because then another NPC could interrupt them if they were to cross paths and, you know, do something that would interrupt them, like attack them. You know, like a trader is traversing from town A to town B, a bandit holds up the road, which would interrupt that, you know, that predicted thing for the merchant or whatever. And then we would just re-update, you know, we'd push the merchant up in the queue so that, you know, it would be like, okay, I'm gonna try and run away, or I'm fucking dead, or something. And then when we go to that bit in the road, we actually come across, oh, there's that merchant that we saw earlier leaving from the city before we took this shortcut through the mountain and whatever. But there's a bandit, and the bandit's robbing him because the bandit has no food, and he's a food merchant. And the bandit's using weapons that he bought from this black market merchant, you know, on the outskirts of town. And we can trace those weapons back to him, and we can disrupt the fucking black market weapons, you know, trade. That kind of bullshit. Any plans to implement some kind of large language model for AI? I've considered doing generated dialogue. I'll definitely use large language model to generate dialogue offline, but I don't know if I'd ever do online generation. Basically, the way I'd do it is like, I'd be like, okay, hello, ChatGPT. I have 100 different NPC personalities, and I need 10 variations each for, ow, that really hurt. And I need it in this format. And then ChatGPT would be like, yep, cool. Here's your... What did I say? 10 different personalities. No, I can't remember. So it would spit out 1,000 lines of dialogue that are all, you know, these are the 10 variations for this personality tag or whatever, or this dialect tag. And then I could just go through, make sure they're all fine, and then just chuck that into the string sheet. And then that's like, you know, fuck yeah, there's 1,000 lines of dialogue for, you know, characters getting hurt. So that's how I'd use LLMs for, you know, just for like variations and stuff. And then obviously any kind of core dialogue would be handwritten. But for any of the kind of barks or just like generic dialogue, it could definitely be done in bulk through AI. AI with, what do you call it? Curation. Is there a similar migrate option for C++ as it is for Blueprint assets, or just have to copy paste? That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. Because I know that migrate and advanced copy, they retain references. So like if you do, let's say we've got like this asset, which is, and this asset and this asset, and they're referencing one another, or this is referencing that, and that is referencing this. If we just did a copy paste and pasted them into a different folder, like this would still be referencing that one, and this would be referencing that one, and this would, I don't know, be doing whatever. But if you do an advanced copy, it will create the new ones referencing the newly copied ones, which is giga handy. I only found that out when I was doing the plugin, like copying my animations into the plugin folder so that the test level would run. And that's what migrate does as well. It retains references and shit. So, I mean, yeah, that's sort of what you'd need to figure out in C++. Is there a way to bulk, you know, move... I don't know how references are done in C++. Like, do they reference the file name through, like, directory? Because in that case, you could just copy-paste them. I think it is directory-based, isn't it? Like, it will say, okay, here's this C++ file, and it is looking for something that is up one folder and, you know, then this path or something. Like, it's like something ... file name or some shit. I don't know. I've got no idea. I'm not really a C++ person. But it's a good question. Okay, I've been trying to work a GOP system in Unreal. Not successful yet. Hell yeah. Let me know when it is successful, because I'm going to be doing the same thing. Mine's going to be called Pope. Actually, that doesn't make sense. That would just be Prismatica-oriented action planning. What about PGOP? Or... C++ ref is relative path in raw text. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so if you just copy-paste the files with their... what's it called? Yeah, you'd have to, like, know which things it's referencing and copy them all over with the... You'd have to copy the folder as well, but not everything in the folder. I'd just copy everything and then delete the things that you don't want to copy. That would probably be the easiest way. Because that's the thing with migrating in Unreal. In Blueprint. Or just, yeah, within Unreal. Oh, actually, no. Can you... You can see C++ files, can't you? In the editor? They're just, like, grey. And then you double-click on them and they open up in VS. So I wonder if you can migrate them that way and it would migrate their dependencies. Because, yeah, that's the nice thing about the migrate function is that let's say, like, there's this thing that's referencing this thing over here, but it's, like, 4 folders deep. Like, it's in a folder. Folders are triangles. And it's referencing this thing. If you migrate this and that, it'll create those 2 folders, but only include this thing. So let's say there was like 100 other things in these folders as well. It would create the folders, tick, tick, and this, but it wouldn't include all the other bullshit that isn't a dependency. But yeah. Can't have no option for migrate. Okay, yep. Makes sense. Makes sense. What else do I want to do? Prismaticate the paint layer. 'Cause, yeah, I want to do paint layers. 'Cause, yeah, paint layers are cool. 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 'Cause paint. What do I want to call it? The paint buffer? What do I even call them? The paint. I'm just gonna fucking call it the paint layer. And then the other thing I wanted to do was water, foam / velocity stuff. And that's all I wanted to do in that. Yeah. Vertex painting? Well, it would be... It's render target based. I'll show you the idea. Oh, actually, no. Yeah, I can just show you the old blood video. Prismatica blood. Prismatica dev blood. That was in recommended search. So, people have been watching this one. Alright, you're gonna start spewing? I miss Anim Man. Rest in peace, Anim Man. You gonna... Hello? Okay, yeah, he'll start spewing in a sec. So it'd basically be this system, but not using render target. Sorry, not using scene capture. So, yeah. But again, it would have 4 channels. So, you know, R could be for blood. Or you could just do it, the alpha is the alpha, and the RG and B is the color. So you could do, like, kind of Splatoon-style bullshit. And then when it's in water, or when it's... Yeah, we can just use the water mask and apply a blur to it over time. Like this, but with any color. And it wouldn't look super shit like this does. So that would be the gist of it. Look at my old water ripples. That was so basic. What was I thinking? So sky. It looks like fucking jelly. It looks viscous. Looks viscous. But yeah, that'd be the gist. And obviously not limited to just blood. You know, not all games are about blood. It could be water. It could be blood. It could be more blood. Infecting water supply with blood is a criminal offense. I think that's a war crime, actually. Or just tainting any water source intentionally. It breaks Geneva Convention. I mean, Prismatica is basically war crime simulator. Medieval war crime simulator. Blood, good game. Yeah, exactly. The better the blood, the better the game. So that's the idea for that. And then water, foam, velocity stuff would affect that as well. So it would kind of spiral out and whatnot. Going hard on Blood Tales for newest version. Yeah. Yep. With their screen. I'm like 99% sure when they say screen space render target, they just mean debuffer. Like I'm like 80% sure that it's just a fancy way of saying the a decal buffer. That whenever they do like the footprints and stuff, they're just printing decals into the snow. And they're not doing... I know they're not doing vertex deformation for the snow like Red Dead does. They're using parallax occlusion. Just whatever the parallax effect is. So they use the debuffer on the ground, on the snow, to do their snow deformation, but it's actually just material effect. And then when the blood goes in the snow, it pools in the it's basically just height lerp. So it prioritizes, or it appears more in the divots of the snow. I don't know. Damn, AAA devs adding fancy titles to their shit make it so inaccessible. Yeah, I know. I know. I know. It's annoying. But yeah, when I think of, because like in some engines, they would call the, like, accessing one of the render buffers a render target. Because it's literally a render target. Like, that's what the you know, the Unreal Engine buffers are just render targets that we're accessing, you know, in the post-process or in the whatever. And that's how the combined image gets created, because it's like, you know, okay, yeah, the normals, and we're gonna run our vertex lighting. Like, here's the lighting direction. Apply, you know, calculate the dot product against the normals and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's how it does lighting. It's not doing per object vertex lighting. It's doing deferred. You know, it calculates all the normals. It knows where the directional light position is, and it just, you know, does a dot product against the world normal buffer. And that's how you get vertex lighting, or, like, you know, the directional lighting. Not shadow cast lighting. That's a whole other fucking thing. But yeah, just layers math. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, whenever AAA people say render target, they're probably referring to a render buffer, or, you know, deferred whatever. So I'm pretty sure it's just debuffer related. I never got to experiment with it because tessellation got deprecated, but I'm pretty sure I don't know if the debuffer can affect displacement, like tessellation displacement. I don't know if it gets done before or after that, or if you'd have to do the previous frames. I don't know. Because I don't know how Genshin Impact do it. Because they actually displace, like, you can see if you look at the silhouette of the sand, when there's, like, footsteps and stuff in the sand, or, like, you know, a character falls over or whatever, it actually deforms the geometry. So it's obviously tessellation, but it's like, how are they writing to it? Because I know that it's not a top-down projection, because if there's like a cliff and you affect the sand on the top, it doesn't write to the sand on the bottom. Like, they're, you know, so it's like three-dimensional, which is why I think that it's like decals. But can decals affect tessellation? I don't know, it's a fucking, who knows? Who cares? Doesn't matter. Okay, what was the other thing I wanted to do? Okay, so this one's an interesting one. I want to do custom character movement at some point. Because I know that the current character movement, it's fine, but I feel like I'm always tacking stuff on top of it and just running a lot of extra calculations that I... Like, for an example, right? There's no way in the Unreal character movement to know what is intended acceleration and incidental acceleration if you want to do, like, animation stuff. Like, yeah, you can calculate the input velocity, like character input velocity, and then, you know, calculate previous frame to this frame divided by, or divided by delta gives you the acceleration for that frame. But then it's like, if you want to add, you know, something like sliding, where you're like, essentially, like I've got this whole knockback system that is like, it goes on top of the Unreal character movement thing, where it's essentially just getting position, setting new position. It's just a whole it's just a whole thing. So my idea is to do one from scratch that is inertia based. It's based. So essentially it would be calculated by essentially, instead of just moving the character, we would be shifting the character's center of gravity and then the rest of the character would counterbalance, and that would be, you know, it would balance that, and that's how you would get acceleration. That's how you get movement, because that's how movement works in real life, right? You push your center of gravity forward, and then your legs basically balance it out, and that's how you move forward. So that's sort of how I'd set it up. That way it would be a lot easier to do, you know, like leaning animations would just be based on the, you know, the angle of the center of gravity from the fulcrum, from the, you know, from the feet point, the contact point. Then we could also do stuff like, if your balance exceeds a certain threshold, the character falls over. So if you got hit in the head from behind while you were moving backwards, then it wouldn't knock you over. You wouldn't lose balance or anything. But if you were moving forward and someone hit you in the back of the head, then you would lose balance and tumble over forwards, or, you know, ragdoll or whatever. Same with, like, you could do, because, I mean, Prismatica is very traversal. I'm still yet to play Death Stranding. I've been playing Red Dead Redemption too much, but yeah, like, Death Stranding seems like it's very, like, the traversal mechanics are, you know, their own, like, gameplay loop, right? Which I think in a game that is, you know, kind of that sort of simulation, hardcore sort of thing, it would make sense to actually implement, like, character balance. Not just for the player, but for the other characters as well, and you could exploit that and whatever. So basically, we'd keep track of 3 points on the character. There'd be the top of their head would be their... Well, their feet would be their fulcrum. Their center of gravity would be their center of gravity, and their head would be their something else. And then basically, depending on if a character gets hit in the legs or hit in the head, you can adjust the center of gravity accordingly. Like, you could essentially, instead of applying knockback, you would apply a force to the center of gravity, or, you know, to one of the points, and the center of gravity, if it passed over the fulcrum at a certain angle, you lose balance, character falls over, blah blah blah. And so you could do that for, like, if a character is running at full speed and they bump into a fence, then you would, like, eat shit over the fence, because your center of gravity, like, your feet would hit the thing, but your center of gravity would continue, and your top half would continue, which would push your center of gravity past the balance point, and you'd eat shit. So, I don't know. I'm gonna keep just jotting ideas down. That's my idea, you know? 3-point based for humanoids. Fulcrum. Pivot. What's the top bit called? Oh. Trying to think physics. The load? No, that's a type 1 lever. What's like center of balance diagram? Diagram? So they call the fulcrum the support in this diagram. Oh, there you go. Here's a diagram, exactly what I was... Guide to great balance for seniors. Seniors fitness. There you go. But yeah, this is like literally what I was talking about with the limit of stability. And then center of mass. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know what I'd call the top point, but... maybe I'd just call it the bottom, middle, and top points, and that would be it. Top thing. Is that not gonna... why is that not... well... you know, I'm just gonna do this. Oh god. Shit. There we go. Oh, wait, what? Did I... oh, I indented that. Right. What's worth mentioning is the blog of Skyrim Survival. The creator referenced an idea of having a game loop for low-stress segments like Survival that can be shoved aside during high-stress segments like combat. Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. Like... combat is obviously like a priority task in any game, essentially. But you still need something to make the in-between, you know, in-between combat encounters still interesting, even though they're like lower, you know, lower level of engagement. Or, you still need to make it engaging whilst being lower intensity. So yeah, you might be looking for something to eat because your character's starving, but then while you're looking for that thing to eat, you know, a bear just charges through the bushes, and it's like, fuck, you know, who cares about finding food? My character's starving, they're gonna be like weaker. I'm just gonna have to take my chances with the bear, you know, like the survival elements and stuff can still have an impact on the combat. So they're not like completely separate, because, you know, if your character is malnourished or dehydrated or whatever, they can't run as fast or they can't swing as hard with their weapons. So maybe in that case you would pull out, you know, like a grenade or a bomb or some fireworks or something and try and scare the bear away rather than trying to fight it head on. And that's because you didn't find the food, or you were in need of the food. So, like, at least this is what I'm envisioning, is that the auxiliary, you know, tasks and gameplay loops have a direct impact on how you approach the higher intensity stuff. Same with, like, you know, like, not every game needs a, you know, separate limb health or limb damage or limb effects. But the reason that I was like, okay, I want, like, you know, your limbs can get broken, is because it or even in some cases forces the player to approach the high intensity stuff in a different way. So, like, you know, usually I dodge around enemies and stab them from behind and that kind of stuff, but I fell down a ravine and broke my leg, and now I can't dodge very fast or very far. And so now I have to think of some other way, you know, change up my playstyle. Maybe I have to just parry more, parry and riposte and that kind of shit, and I can't really dodge. Like, you still could dodge, but it would be less effective. So that's sort of my what's it called? Reasoning for extra complexity and that kind of bullshit. Because it sort of just naturally creates variation and encourages players to try all of the different mechanics. Because that's the thing, you can have all of these mechanics, and like a lot of RPGs have, like, you know, there's like 10 different classes, and there's all these subclasses, and there's like all these different weapons and stuff. But as soon as you find something that works, you just do that until the end of the game, and then you never play the game again. And it's like, oh yeah, that game was pretty cool, but like the combat was kind of boring, you know? Even though it's got, like, you only saw 1% of the combat system, or that the game had to offer, because, you know, you could just stick with the one thing, it kind of got boring. But because it was effective, you didn't have to change what you were doing. So I think having those kind of chaotic systems that can encourage people to try other things means that they get to see more of the variation, which gives them a better impression of, you know, the game. Because there's no point having a deep game or a rich game if players aren't incentivized to see all of it, you know? Or at least, like, the average player. Some players will, like, intentionally be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna only use my bow for this next few hours or something, and then I'm only gonna use smoke grenades and daggers to assassinate people or whatever. But, like, the average player just wants to fucking steamroll through, you know, shitty enemies. So I don't know. That's my take on survival and, like, auxiliary mechanics and whatnot. Is that they shouldn't be... that it shouldn't just be a bar that if it runs out, you die, you know? It should put a spin on the other systems. You know what I'm saying? Am I making any sense, or am I just nothing burgering? Is that just a big nothing sandwich? Big dehydrator reduces stamina regen. Yeah, exactly. And then, like, as a follow-up to that, being in a hot environment with full plate armor on will dehydrate you quicker. So therefore, you know, okay, well, I use a lot of stamina. I'm going into the desert. Maybe I should just wear, you know, white, you know, robes instead. And now I can't rely on my armor, because usually I just tank hits because I'm fucking invulnerable. But now I have to, you know, dodge or be more defensive and all that kind of stuff. We think starving would do though, so you reduce health over time or something else. Well, you can do like starving makes your character get tired quicker, like in terms of like, you know, needing to sleep or falling asleep. You could, yeah, reduce the like blood regeneration of the character. You could just, yeah, you could do stamina as well with lack of food. You could make their stomach growl, which would, you know, make you less stealthy. Like that would actually produce an audio cue. Same with like, this is something I was thinking like about if your character gets sick or something, they like sneeze or cough every so often. And so then if you were like doing stealth stuff and then your character just coughs and it alerts the enemy and you're like, fuck, you know, I should have sorted that out before I did this. Like just little like, I don't know, like, again, none of this is implemented yet, but it's kind of like, you can just imagine all of the, like, the player stories that can arise from having, you know, not necessarily like super complex systems, but just having rich systems like that, where like, because like that's something you'd tell a friend. You're like, oh, I was playing this game, and you know, I drank some stale or some stagnant water from a pond, and my character was sick, and I didn't realize, but I was about to backstab this enemy, and my character started vomiting, and the character turned around and kicked me in the face. You know, like, what are you trying to fucking do? And blah, blah, blah. So yeah, like, just that kind of stuff is like something that you could tell a friend about, you know, oh, this game, like, it's fucking got everything in it, you know, but it's all just like systemic, like none of it's programmed. It's just that sneezing produces an audio, like, sensory event that any NPC can react to, and it would just be a case of, okay, this character heard something unusual, they turned around to see what it was, then they saw me, an enemy, and they attacked me. But it's not like sneezing causes characters to attack you. It's just, here's a very simple output that an NPC can, you know, take and do whatever they want with it, and then they make a decision. This person was about to kill me because they have a dagger and they're, you know, they're crouching down behind me, kind of thing. I just thought mechanics like eating too much at once would cause stomach issues. Yeah, burping, exactly. Or just like, yeah, overeating just causes your character to vomit. Or like eating something poisonous. So like I had this idea of anything that a character consumes would take like maybe like 10 in-game minutes to like digest. So like you'd essentially have food objects in your stomach that your digestive component would be, you know, okay, yeah, we've got apple. An apple gives this much energy per second, you know, for this long or something. I don't know. But then if you threw up, then your stomach contents would disappear and you'd no longer be getting the energy or the whatever, the hydration from the things in your stomach. So you could do the same thing if you ate something poisonous, then you could throw it up and it would stop poisoning you from that point onwards. So I don't know. Yeah, I've heard a lot about Outward. Like a lot of people have said, "Oh, have you played Outward?" Like it sounds like it's like exactly your kind of game. I've been meaning to get it. I heard that it's got a definitive edition, which is like the kind of final cut of it. So I might grab that and give it a crack, you know. Oh, it is extremely jank. Hell yeah. That sounds like my kind of game. Still some fun. Yeah. I feel like it would be a really good game to... Because it's got co-op, doesn't it? I feel like it would be a real fun one to play with someone. Or with some people. Best part is the co-op. Yeah. That's sort of what I want to do. Like, one of the reasons I want to go pretty deep into, like, NPC, you know, decision-making and AI and, like, the off-screen simulation and all that shit is so that players can feel like they're doing co-op even though they're just playing solo. Because, like, their, you know, NPC party members are actually, like, you know, oh, we're at camp. Okay, I'm going to go and look for firewood. And, oh, I'm going to go and, you know, hunt something. I'll be back in 10 minutes or something. And then you can go off and do your own shit. When you come back to the camp, they'll be cooking a, like, you know, well, if they actually went and found something, they'll be cooking an animal over the fire. And they'll be like, oh, you want some? You know, hungry? Here's some, I've brewed some fucking coffee. Or, like, I found some leaves of some sort in the bush, and I've brewed up this tea, and you all drink the tea, and it turns out it was, like, you know, psychoactive or something, and then you're all just tripping balls, and it's like, what the fuck? And you start seeing, like, hallucinated enemies coming towards you, and it's a big shit show. Like, just something dumb like that could happen. Because then it's like, yeah, like, you've almost got this, like, you're building relationships with these NPCs from, like, a roleplay perspective. Like, I want it to kind of feel like you're playing an MMO that has, like, 100,000 people in the same server, and everyone's, like, role-playing and never breaking character. Like, that's what I imagine Prismatica feeling like at some point, you know? Like, if you give every character, you know, their needs and agency and, you know, they just want to do dumb shit sometimes. Like, you know, one of them just wants to climb up to the top of the mountain just to see the view or whatever. That's, like, when you start getting that vibe, that, like, actual adventure simulator vibe. And especially if you intentionally make things not player-centric, then you can really get that vibe going. Like I've been playing Rain World, and, like, it's very, like, limited scope, but, like, all of the creatures exist, and they're all doing their own thing, regardless of whether you're seeing them or not, or whether you're being chased by them, or whether you're trying to, you know, eat bats or something. Like, they don't give a fuck that the player is there. Like, they have no concept of you are the player. You are just a little slug cat looking thing. That, you know, just exists. That's just platforming through the world and whatnot. And it really, like... Because none of it's, like, scripted or anything, it actually makes you feel like you're at the bottom of the food chain, and that these, like, predator creatures and stuff are, like, they're not going to... They're not gonna... Like, there's no plot armor, is what I'm trying to say. Because you get treated as an NPC by the AI and all that kind of stuff. So what I'd love to do for a future zombie survival project, simulating groups of zombies and human groups that are just single grouped actors that do different things, either attacking each other, interacting with each other. Yeah. That's like, I was thinking of doing the same thing, like grouping. So, like, if we've got our I guess, world map, we could call it, we'd still have, you know, 10 character objects, which have their own attributes that are, you know, very sparsely updated and blah, blah, blah. but we can put them under a group object, and the group object is what's doing the navigating and stuff. So we don't have to do pathfinding for, you know, even an army of 100 people. They can all just be a part of the army object, and then that army object can, you know, when it fights another group or army or attacks some position, we can just get like a general power factor of their, like we can basically sum all of the characters' stats into like one character, in quotations, and then battle that character against the other Giga character. Because you can kind of presume that if you program the off-screen combat like, you know, agile characters defeat, you know, slower characters, but armor beats, you know, light slashing weapons and all that kind of stuff, then you can basically calculate who would win the battle with just like, you know, maybe 100 variables versus 100 variables, which is like not much math to do. You could probably get away with like 10 variables, like general. Yeah, it's like paper beats rock, exactly. And then you could just calculate, okay, yeah, this, like, there were this many casualties, let's just pick, you know, of these characters, these were the ones that would have died first. Kill all of them. And so we've got, like, a battle event, which is an event object, which is, like an off-screen event object. Although I think I think any kind of battle, even if it's on-screen, would get its own object just to track as, like, an event log and stuff. Because then NPCs could witness that and be like, oh, there was a battle at this location between these two factions. They pass that info on, you know, rumors and all that kind of bullshit. But, yeah. So then, basically, when we now come across this battle, we know that, okay, these enemies are, or these characters are all dead. We're going to spawn their corpses in. These ones are all alive, and all the enemies are dead. And these guys, when they get spawned in, they are in the middle of looting, you know, all of the supplies from the battlefield. And so we come across them, it's like, oh shit, there was this huge fucking battle here. People are looting the dead and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Is my characters as well as their personality types characters? Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, like, maybe you would come across some people that had fled from the battle, and you ask them, like, what are you running from? And they say, oh, there was this fucking huge battle up in this direction. They point to the direction. And so then you go that way and you find, yeah, either the battle is in the middle of happening, or it's already happened and you see the aftermath of it, and it's like crazy. It's like crazy shit. So that's sort of the ideas of the off-screen simulation. Like, the other thing is, like, yeah, you could kind of just, like, randomize, like, you know, there's a 1% chance for a broken down merchant to appear on this road, or, like, you know, a merchant being held up by bandits on this road. But then there's no real, like, cause and effect. And, you know, that sort of pre-scripted stuff gets stale after a while. Like, I've been playing Red Dead for, like, a few days now, and I've come across the same, you know, it's a prisoner, and they're, you know, their legs are chained together, and they want me to shoot the chains apart. And it's like, thank you, mister. You know. Or, like, you know, lawmen escorting someone that they've captured, and the person that's captured's like, I didn't do nothing wrong, mister, brother. So, yeah. Yeah, like, I've seen that one, like, 3 times, but it's sort of it gets a bit stale. Because that's a scripted random event. It's not actually, like, those lawmen didn't actually go and find that person that had a bounty on their head, or bandit, whatever you call them. Person that had a bounty on their head. It's just a random scripted event that has a chance of happening at any given time. Yeah, so that's sort of the idea. That's the idea. They're my thoughts. They're my thoughts. Whereas you see in Aftermath, not just corpses in a field, perhaps a bloody bunch of stripped corpses in a pile, 2 piles of gear that was too low quality to break. Yeah, exactly. And like the way those behaviors would be written is that they have a virtualized version and an on-screen version where, you know, it's like the on-screen version is an actual like state tree that says look for items on body in vicinity, take item if good, otherwise dump body on pile. Whereas the off-screen thing would just be like, okay, it's been 2 minutes since we last updated this thing. You know, what would have happened since then? Well, they would have piled, 30 bodies by now and looted this many bodies, and we're just gonna move their armor objects from their character to the world, so now that object exists, or that object is no longer parented to the character object. It's now just, its parent is now the query grid. So yeah. But having an interface that's usable on both player characters and AI characters, good program design, nonetheless. Yeah. That's how, like, everything I do, except for the camera controls and the what's it called? The occlusion... obscuration? What's the fucking thing called? Occlusion... transparent... I don't know. Whatever it is when you make things go invisible around the player. They're like the only player-centric things that I've ever programmed. Everything else is like just character-based. It's based, And then the way that the player uses, like, the ability system, for example, is like, we have the input, and that triggers, the attack action, which is the same one that an NPC would be calling from their behavior tree or state tree or whatever. Occlusion culling. Yeah. Well, yeah. Or it'd be obstruction culling, because we're culling the obstructing objects rather than the occluded. Like, when we are occluded by an obstructing object, we cull that object, not us. I don't know, I've got no fucking idea. As you can see, list these tasks, that list is their topics and... Yeah, exactly. You could be like, hey, what are you doing? And every task has a, this is what I'm doing, piece of text. And we use ChatGPT to get 100 different variations of that what am I doing text for like 10 different personality types, for 10 different, social standings or something. And we just get ChatGPT to format that, and we just like, yep. Explanation for looting corpses. Now we've got 1,000 variations of that. Pick the right one based on the tags. Something. Who knows? Anyway, let's get back to the thing. So yeah, okay, we were talking about the inertial movement. I was thinking of a funny acronym for it. And for some reason, I like drifted back to like PISS, like PISS, which would be like the Prismatica. Everything is PISS, inertial. Space. What's a word for like moving? Moving thesaurus. Shifter? Spatial shifting. There we go. Because that's what the Prismatica immersive simulation system was gonna be as well, but it's now called the large scale, which is PLSS. Like plus. So we kind of missed out on that one. So I don't know. Something has to be PISS. I just think it would be so funny to have a plugin on the marketplace called PISS. Or just like some funny acronym. But obviously you don't put the acronym in the title. You just capitalize the title, you know? Center of balance based movement balance / tripping / knockback / slopes would be included in it. Built from the ground up. Pun. That's a pun, because it's like from the... Do you know what I mean? Because the ground is the fulcrum point. Built from the ground up for realistic but responsive movement. This would also have landing springiness. This was actually an interesting idea I had about this system as well. Is you know how like when characters just with the default movement, let's say there's like a little rock on the ground, right? And you've got like that step up height, whatever. And when you like run over the rock, the character like pops up and then they pop down again and it like looks really jarring. So the way I'd handle this is that the let's say this is like the midpoint of the character, or like, you know, just the active position of the character. So what I do is the fulcrum point would, you know, have a step up and whatever, but the center of gravity or the middle point would be smoothed. So it would be doing this, then it would get to the rock and it would smooth up and then smooth out, kind of thing. Kind of like how you do IK. You can do pelvic IK that sort of does this. But yeah, and then you could also do like, okay, yeah, like you slow down when you do a step up, which is something that, you know, Unreal's one doesn't do. And if you're going, like, when you do this, your center of balance shifts forward. So if you do that too fast, then you could trip over or some shit. I don't fucking know. So, like, you wouldn't want to sprint over a rock You'd want to kind of maybe slow down a bit. Especially if you're, like, intoxicated. Because, like, intoxication would lower the balance, like, the balance threshold. So here's, like, center of gravity, here's fulcrum. Here is, you know, your balance point, usually. But then when you're intoxicated, that shrinks down. So then, like, even if you move forward and then try and do a turnaround while sprinting, then this might overshoot that, and you just eat shit, you know? Do you know what I mean? And obviously, if you're intoxicated, we'd add a random noise to the balance point, which would then affect movement, so that the character would stumble around trying to correct their center of balance shifting. And then if your character was stumbling to the left, and then you tried moving left, it would push that over that point, and your character would eat shit. But then you could essentially, like, counterbalance if your character was drunk by moving in the opposite direction that the character is losing balance. And then I also had this idea, you could use this system for, like, if the character goes into a balancing state, like a, you know, a thin wall or something, where, like, they would usually, with the Unreal one, you'd get ejected either side. If a character goes into a balancing state, then you could use this system as well to actually balance on, you know, like, there's a river and there's, like, a log crossing the river, and we need to, like, balance on the log. And if our character is, like, has been hit in the head recently, then you get, like, a smaller window. Kind of like grinding in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but for, like, you know, character traversal. I think that would be dope. I think that would be funny as. So yeah, I don't know. I'm, like, pretty set on doing this. I know that the Unreal are, like, doing a new character movement thing, but I feel like it's just gonna be, like, arcadey as well, but just a bit more modular. Whereas I think what I want to do is eventually gonna need custom support shit. Otherwise, I'd just be tacking on extra systems on top of, you know, an already expensive character movement system. And I think if I was to do this, I'd write it all in Blueprint, but then maybe get someone to, once it's all done, to C++ it. Potentially. Or if that Blueprint to CPP, BP CPP plugin is good, then I'll just be like, yeah, fuck it. Just keep it in Blueprint, you know? I wonder how that is going. Let me see if there's any updates. You got 9 hours ago. BP2CPP is 10 times faster than Blueprint Virtual Machine, while being around 10 times slower than handwritten C++ code. Video I record handwritten C++, BP, TCPP, and BPVM executing the code. I'll post below as a comment showcasing their execution speed. There you go. He's got it sorted. He's got it sorted. I don't know what this is doing, though. It might just be iteration. Which some things are definitely going to be faster or slower in Blueprint versus C++. Like, there's different sort of levels of performance loss with C++ to Blueprint. I guess it depends how many times it has to dip in and out of the VM. I don't actually know how it works. I don't fucking know. Oh, and these are all running at the same time. But yeah. Just iterating that. Yeah. Yeah, so for something like a movement component, then that might be perfectly fine, because you're not, like, iterating heaps. You're just doing line traces and blah, blah, blah. Like, all it needs to do is dip. Well, in Blueprint, it would just dip in to the component, run all of the code, and then exit. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, this is like, yeah, it's like nativization, but instead of, I don't know, I was reading it, apparently it, well, no, apparently it doesn't introduce bugs, because it's taking the bytecode of the Blueprint and something rather than, like, reverse engineering the, I don't know. Because, like nativization would, you know, there'd be, like, missing texture references and a bunch of broken shit. But apparently this, like, he just literally, like, packaged the Fluid Ninja sample project, and it just worked, and it was faster, you know? So, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. So, yeah, apparently it's running. Don't know. 5.3 is bug. Oh, shit. True. But yeah, I'm very interested in it. Yeah. Like, it's basically what I've been saying for ages, is like, I mean, obviously Unreal isn't doing it themselves at the moment, but, like, Blueprint is so, it's like a no-brainer for them to prioritize Blueprint in Unreal Engine, because it's like the selling point of Unreal Engine is Blueprint. For someone that isn't an experienced programmer, it's like, yeah, I can just open Unreal Engine and, like, start making a game, and I don't have to fucking go to university. Like, you know, I can get something happening without any prior experience. You know, whether it's good or not doesn't matter, but yeah, like, they'd have to be stupid to not try and optimize it or do a nativization approach at some point. But it's, yeah, it seems like this guy's plugin is, like, more stable, or, like, doesn't have errors somehow. Black Magic. He's inside Unreal Sucker's programmer, Hangout channel all the time. Yeah, questions. Is he getting updated? Oh, hell yeah, hell yeah. They only care about Verse these days. Isn't Verse just for UEFN? I don't know. I don't understand Verse. Like, I don't understand the point of it? Because it's like, if I'd never used a written programming language before, and I was using Unreal Engine, then I would just learn C++ or like Unreal C++, you know? Like, why use their weird little intermediate language when you can just use C++ anyway that doesn't require any external function exposure and all that kind of shit? I'm on a stage with GameDev where I'm okay investing time in C++ now to gain more access to the engine and understand what goes into it. Yeah, I'm sort of the same, but like I'd be happy investing time into it, but I don't know. I think because my primary drive is to teach people stuff about the engine, and to kind of show that, you know, yeah, you can be dumb as fuck like me, but still make video game, make complex video game. Then I'll probably just still stick with Blueprint for the, like, on principle. But I don't know. There's definitely some things that I'll either migrate, you know, when Prismatica if Prismatica ships, or get someone else to, you know, to nativize. And then all there'd be a lot of... No, if I program everything, like, modularly enough, there shouldn't be much redirector fixer-uppery to do, but yeah. I think it's meant to close the gap between BP and CPP, but that syntax is so unintuitive, it doesn't look like a beginner-friendly language and all. Yeah, that's kind of what I mean, like... It's like, okay, like, you know, learning a syntax or learning a language is probably going to take the same amount of time, whether it's Verse or whether it's C++. So why not just... Or, you know, even if C++ took, you know, 10% longer to learn than Verse did, or if it's 10% slower to learn, it's still like C++ is going to be more performant and you have more access to everything and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really understand Verse. Like what the point of investing resources into it is. Because I don't feel like Verse is gonna attract any people to the engine. And it's also not a transferable skill. Like, if you learn C++ in Unreal, then you... I mean, I know C++, Unreal C++ is, like, not true C++, but... you know, if you worked on C++ in Unreal, then you have, like, a pretty good head start for any other C++ project, you know? Like, you know, the kind of general shit. Whereas Verse is like an Unreal exclusive language, which isn't transferable. So I don't know. It just kind of, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird. Verse doesn't need to have to be compiled. Oh, true. True. Actually, that's a good point. So it is faster to iterate on than C++. That's the one thing. Like, I filmed a video the other day about, like, you know, Blueprint versus C++. Like, you know, can you make a game in Blueprint? Blah blah blah. And one of the things that I don't think I brought it up. I'll have to film it as like an extra insert. But it's that if you're beginning codist, if you can iterate quicker in Blueprint, then you can optimize that Blueprint code, you know, and you might even like, you'd learn more from a programming standpoint. Because yeah, you don't have to compile the entire fucking session every time and that kind of stuff. Like, I think Blueprint allows you to fail quicker than C++, which is like a good kind of fail. Like, you try something, it didn't work out, try it again with the lessons that you learned from it. Yeah. Do I want to do, like, modular movement modes? How would I do that? Would they just be objects, or would they be subcomponents? No, they'd be objects that would do the... Here's something. How TF can I override the add impulse, add velocity, or add force interfaces in BP? Question mark, question mark. Because I know there's some weird shit. Because, like, you can add impulse. You add impulse to a component or an actor? I can't remember how it is. But I know that the character movement component can hook into that, and it tries to do some shit with it, but it's like a fucking... It's dumb as hell. It barely works. The other thing I wanted to do was... balance on moving / accelerating objects. Slash, you know, animation lean, animatino, animation leaning / additives. So here's like an idea. Target primitive component. Gotcha. Primitive component. So does that mean you have to target the capsule, or... Yeah, no, yeah, it would be targeting the capsule. I wonder if there's a an override event for that. But, you know, add force or add velocity, I can't remember. But yeah, this is another thing that I wanted to do, because with the current thing, let's say like you're on a moving platform and it stops suddenly, your character isn't going to maintain that inertia with a character movement component. Same thing with, like, let's say like an elevator goes up really quick. Your character isn't going to react to that, you know, whereas with this like three-point based thingo, it would be like, here's the platform, here's our character's 3 points, the elevator suddenly goes up, the fulcrum point moves up immediately, but the, you know, the midpoint and the top point trail behind, or, you know, the center of gravity trails behind, which means they'll use an additive crouching animation and kind of like spring up like this, like platform, and it's like, you know, and that would be the exact same with landing on something. So like when you land, the fulcrum point immediately stops, but the the inertia of the middle point and the top point would continue on. And so if you landed from high up and it squished down too far, then we'd say your character's lost balance and they just eat shit. You know, that's how we deal with, like, landing states or landing damage. And then if it didn't, it would just be an additive based on, you know, distance from there to there and blah, blah, blah. So I think this whole, like, movement component idea has its merit for this kind of project. And it would all be written in blueprints, so people can, like, be like, oh, what goes into a movement, you know, movement component? I'm actually like really excited to do this. Like I'm like hyped. I think it would be very cool. And because it's completely like physically, or not physics based, it's not using the physics system. Oh, there's a storm outside. Hopefully my power doesn't give out. But yeah. Precision has a body reckoning movement. Oh, nice. Let me have a geese. But is this just... This is just physical animation. You can see that the movement component is always right there. It's just that the physical animation is, you know, making the rest of the body act like that. Whereas mine would be fully kinematic. So, like, the actual character would, you know, stumble around on the platform when it's moving like this. And the up and down kind of movement would be just an additive animation rather than physically simulate. Obviously, you could add physical simulation on top of it, but we'd essentially be faking this kind of stuff just using the fulcrum point and the center of gravity point. And then I think for quadrupeds, we do two of them. So we do a point here, like a top point, a fulcrum point, a top point, a fulcrum point, and then the center of gravity is, you know, whatever the center of gravity is between them. And then for a quadrupedal version of the movement, we would have a capsule here, a capsule there, and a horizontal capsule. And then if they go up slopes and stuff, we'd move them independently, if that makes sense. And then, like, let's say a quadruped gets hit by a boulder in the back, that would cause this movement capsule to get knocked sideways, but this one would stay relatively the same, and it would actually just turn them around rather than knocking the whole quadruped in that direction. So that's kind of my idea for quadrupeds. So it is essentially be one movement component, but with two kind of chains, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. It's one of those things. It's one of those things. Adam, hello. Hello, Raiders. How's it going? Welcome. You joined just in time. We're just discussing... I don't know. We're discussing lots of things. We're kind of planning out the year ahead. With a lot of things. We've talked about open sourcing or making the source of the game available, doing a virtualized ability system for like off-screen NPCs and stuff. Basically, the gist of the game is that it's an adventure simulator. So it's a simulation. It's not a game. It's a simulation. So like imagine like The Sims, but it's like Dark Souls, you know, or it's like RimWorld, but Zelda. That's the tagline. But essentially, yeah, all NPCs will be simulated off screen, mainly because like if your party members have to be simulated off screen anyway, and there's a system for them to be simulated and actually doing stuff off screen, we may as well just do that for literally every NPC in the world, because it's Delta time, like Delta update based. So we could be simulating, you know, 100,000 characters, but it's just that they only get updated once every few minutes, and it cycles through. Oh, you've got 5 minutes between updates, and now, you know, we do the thing. We see what you would have done in that time. Like swimming pool ladders mysteriously disappearing. Exactly. Yep. Sim Souls is a game I would play. Yeah, same. I think it's an interesting premise. But then we were just talking about custom character movement in Unreal Engine. And I might even dive into this first as a kind of warm-up, because it would be fun. I think it would be a nice chill sort of few weeks to just do custom character movement specific to, you know, this project. Oh god, it's pouring rain outside. I hope my power doesn't shut off. Oh god, I'm scared. What's the add force interface you were talking about? So you can, in Unreal, you can call a function called add force or add impulse, or add impulse at location. And basically the inbuilt character movement component like overrides that. So I'm just thinking, how can we hook that into our one? I might have to make the base in C++ and then just do everything else in, you know, because then I can just override it past that interface to the blueprint, or expose it to the blueprint, and then thingamajig. Yeah, override the override, exactly. Oh god. Fuck, it's hailing outside. Shit. Oh, I don't have my uninterruptible power supply yet. So like, if my power goes out, I might have another dead power supply, but I feel like that only happened because my old power supply was really old. And I do have a backup one, but I don't have to like pay. Anxiety, you know. This is what happens when you live out on a farm in the middle of nowhere. It's just like the power can just disappear, and the power core doesn't give a fuck. Anyway, so. Custom character movement. Build from the ground up. Realistic, responsive movement. I'd probably start playing Death Stranding for inspo. Although I don't know if it uses root motion or not. That's probably... Here is fully kinematic. No physics. And no root motion. Mode 2 on. Sweet. Uses animation additives for physical... For appearing. Here we go. Appearing. Physical. V cheap. Much cheaper than physically simulating. The other thing is that this is going to be running on potentially 100 loaded characters at once, so it does need to be cheap. But the gist of it is we'd either have to do a capsule trace or 5 line traces. Honestly, I think I'd go with 5 line traces, because you can get... So let's say, like, we have our character. Here's their fulcrum point. Here's their stick. Oh, the other... fuck my life. It also needs... soft collision. So a soft collision bubble would be... Actually, I don't know if it would need to be included in the movement system, or whether it would be an external component that could then just use the, you know, add inertia or alter center of balance to the other thing. Fuck, I hope that rain lets up before my house leaks and everything shorts out. Yeah, but so the benefit of doing 5 line... Because, like, a sphere trace is more expensive than a line trace. So the benefit of doing 5 line traces, so 1 in the middle and then 1 in each, like, local direction from the character. I'll do it from above. So we've got 1 here, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there. Is that on uneven terrain, we can get the average normals, right? Rather than a sphere trace. Like for example, if we were standing on this pyramid and we were right here, the normal of the ground that we're on would be this, even though we're standing on the peak of it. Or we could, like, rapidly alternate between this normal and this normal, which is just a fucking nightmare. If we were going to do, like, sliding down surfaces or some shit. So if we were doing multiple, we would say, hey, here's trace 1, here's trace, you know, in front, here's the other trace. Get the average of them. The average is straight up. Which makes more sense, because, yeah, we're at the peak of this thing. So I think multi-line trace, like, multiple line traces is better. Or it could be a capsule trace in the center, and then a line trace at each, you know, around the radius of it. But yeah, I don't know. I also wonder if we could do the floor update periodically rather than each frame. Because if the whole system's kind of interpolated, maybe we could just do the central one each frame and then the auxiliary ones periodically. But we'd have no way to queue that. Well, I could have a character movement subsystem manager that ticks through them all in order so that they're all done on different frames, but then you got, like, I don't fucking know. Probably not worth. I'd probably just eat the cost and just do them all. Because we can basically extrapolate all of our information from that. So yeah, we know, like, if there's a moving platform, like that example, kind of. we would be reading from... We can do the get velocity of the component that a line trace hit. Which it technically only works for physically simulated things. I don't think it works for just kinematically moving objects. But everything is going to be physically simulated anyway, so fuck it. Yeah, so it would be like, okay, the floor is moving this velocity. You know, so move our fulcrum this way. So it would move our feet in that direction. Our center of gravity would lag behind. And then our character would try and keep balance by moving their feet in this direction slightly. Or walking in this direction slightly before their center of gravity catches up with the velocity of the platform. So it's like when you're on a bus and the bus starts moving and you know, get jerked backwards until your center of gravity has aligned with the bus's velocity. So that would be just a byproduct of calculating the character movement that way. And then the kind of jiggling and the leaning and stuff, like this is just the generic character movement. All of the jiggling and stuff would just be with additive animations. So, you know, a lean forward additive, a lean backwards additive, a crouching additive, a tippy toes additive, and that would all... It would look physical, but it's not. And then our physical stuff would go over the top of that. Like, you know, if your arm's broken, then it's flopping. And that's just... It doesn't affect, you know, the kinematic inertia of the character and whatnot. I'm so anxious about this fucking... This thunderstorm. It's freaking me out. Rumor do sweep test with LED zero complex collision on tick. I've seen some, like, IK systems that do that, and it's terrifying. The only time I'd ever use complex collision is with projectiles hitting objects or hitting scenery. And you need to get the... You know, you need to know what the UV position of that part of the geometry was so that you know the physical material so that you can spawn sparks if the door had a metal frame on it or something. And that's it. That's the only time I use complex collision. Oh, fucking hell. Alright, I might wrap up very shortly. I know we didn't actually open the engine. But I might just wait till this thunderstorm subsides. And then stream again later tonight. Maybe in like 3 hours from now. So if you are joining us from Adam's raid. And you want to see what the hell I'm doing. Make sure you follow, because I'll be streaming again soon. I also need to probably get that cat inside that... I had a cat and its eyeball popped and it's a stray cat. It's a stray cat. It's not one of mine, but I'm looking after a cat. So I should probably get him inside for a bit. And give him his eye drops and stuff. Oh, and my camera just gave out. Okay, yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone for hanging out. I hope you had a great time. I'll see you all later tonight. And I think we'll actually start on this character movement system because I've got a pretty good idea of how it will work. So that will be a lot of fun. Yeah, like and subscribe. Thank you everyone. I better get out of here before my computer explodes. So everyone have a great night. And I'll see you later. Goodbye. I'm waving, but you